It takes about 20 minutes until the first explosions start in Star Trek Beyond, and then they don't let up until the end, and that is just absolutely unfortunate because I thought that Hollywood and the filmmakers would have learned something from Star Trek Into Darkness, which that is just not how a Star Trek movie should feel. It shouldn't feel like a generic action title in space. And I think one of the first big sort of signs of danger was that Justin Lin, fresh off of the Fast and Furious franchise, was brought on board as the director of this new movie. And I don't mean to dismiss him or his big box office clout and success, but I just feel like that is a very odd choice to bring what is unquestionably one of the most cerebral sci-fi franchises in history to the big screen again. And I feel that that has been a missing component from this new revitalized Star Trek from the beginning. I think it was excusable and kind of fresh and fun with the original Star Trek origin story that J.J. Abrams directed. I thought that was a very fun movie about the, bringing together of the crew and, getting into space and getting into some pretty kinetic space sort of conflict. I thought that was fine. Star Trek Into Darkness just escalated everything into just absolute ridiculousness. And I think Beyond tries to scale back a little bit, but it just ultimately devolves into one action set piece after another. And I think this is going to be a movie that's forever known as the movie where Kirk gets onto the back of a motorbike and does some jumps like he's in an episode of the A-Team or something like that, or the Fast and the Furious, and he does some jumps and saves the day, and I just felt like this was too slight of a movie for an opportunity, I think, with Star Trek to kind of show us a future of civility and of real intelligence and real sort of a real sense of morality and a sense of understanding and appreciating the different cultures that exist in our universe. And they touch on that, and those are the moments in Star Trek Beyond that I think kind of rise above and make us feel like, oh, okay, there's still life in this, and there is definitely a future in the cinematic telling of Star Trek. But you certainly wonder if that kind of thoughtful, pensive, slowed down, kind of a more intelligent look at a potential future for our existence isn't better served on television, and why it's so exciting to know that there is a new Star Trek series coming to us next year, which I can't wait for. But these movies, man, they are really kind of misstepping the whole kind of the heart of Star Trek. And what makes it so weird for me is, Star Wars, which I think the producers and Paramount and everybody that's involved in sort of financing these new Star Trek movies is probably looking over at Disney and saying, oh my God, look at the success they're having with the Marvel characters and the Star Wars characters. We want some of that. Let's make one of our own. And it just doesn't fit right. It doesn't suit these characters, these types, these personalities that we've known that have existed in popular culture for so long. It doesn't feel right for Spock to be this big action hero running around shooting at everybody. And in this movie, he's actually got some smiles and some tears, showing emotion, which I think they're obviously playing with what we know about the Vulcan race and about Spock as a character and sort of juicing it a little bit, and then that's fine. But those moments would work a lot better if we just slowed down and had some real time with Spock and really got to get a little bit more of the interpersonal kind of workings of each of these crew members. They've all been sort of deconstructed to the point where they are just types, and it's almost like we get a whole bunch of these sort of we are a family type sequences where everybody's finishing each other's sentences and they're acting as one mind, and they are outwitting the opponents and doing something a little bit more action based than character based, and it's just unfortunate. I feel like this is a movie that has some real problems with scale, and it begins at the beginning, actually, with this kind of cool sequence where Kirk is having to face this really interesting race of aliens, and they get all crazy and chase after him. And after that thrilling kind of edge of his teeth escape and what could set up a really kind of interesting kind of dynamic for how these different alien races all coexist, he just goes on to tell us that he's getting bored of being a captain. And so we have this weird dynamic where it looks like Kirk might just quit this whole spacefaring thing and leave the reins to somebody else. And then, of course, he gets sucked into this interplanetary mission where he has to go and try to rescue a ship that's been stranded in a nebula. And then he meets another really interesting opponent portrayed by Idris Elba. The character's name is Crawl, and he's got some pretty cool, interesting characteristics, and I think the setup for something that could have been so much more, but of course he just becomes, generic bad guy number 47, and Idris Elba is so ensconced and so sort of wrapped up in the makeup. He kind of reminded me of Louis Gossett Jr. from Enemy Mine, which is a throwback. We're going to the Wayback Machine for that one. But, he's got some interesting dynamics and interesting kind of character work in there, and I like that. I didn't like all of his cronies and henchmen, which all look like they just came off of some sci-fi movie backlot. That's the problem with this movie. There's so much of it just looks like it just has been lifted from so many other places. I did like the special effects and the visual effects that sort of conveyed the beauty and the luster and the harmony of Starfleet space life. There's a great kind of fly over this space station sequence, which is just beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful in more ways than one, more than just the painterly aspects of it, but in the sort of optimistic aspects of it that I think Gene Roddenberry was always really leaning towards with the Star Trek stories that he was telling, and he was having his creators create for us. And I just wanted more of that. I thought that kind of stuff was just so much more interesting. And same with all the great character work from these actors, which I appreciate so much. I think Chris Pine was perfect casting as our new Kirk. I don't think there could have been a better Spock than Zachary Quinto. It's like he was made and born to be this new character. And I just wanted to sort of spend more time with them and get a real sense of their familial bond, and we do get little touches, we do get these quips, we do get these lines, but they feel like they're so doled out with such discretion, and it's like, well, we can only have so much of this because we've got to get it to this big action set piece thing, and Kirk's got to get on a motorbike pretty soon. And, and trust me, the spaceship sequences are cool. I love the kind of swarming technique that the bad guys have. I'm not going to spoil what they do to the Enterprise, but you've probably seen it all in some of these trailers. And speaking of that Enterprise, I had an issue with the scale of this thing, too. I mean, this was supposed to be a spaceship that's just filled with thousands and thousands of people. There are all of these different crew members milling about, but they literally have nothing to do. They're all just background. And it's because this movie is just so overstuffed with visual effects and explosions and action beats that just drone on and start to get so tiresome. But all of this sort of background work and all of these, costumes and makeup effects that they had to do for all of these different representatives of Starfleet that exist on the Enterprise just gets lost and forgotten. There's literally no dialogue. There's no kind of interplay. There's a couple of sequences where, Kirk has to address somebody and say, I need your help. And then they get a couple of beats. And it's just crazy that all, this massive battle is going on, so much destruction and explosion, but it all devolves and sort of sinks down to the 6 or 7 Star Trek headliners who have to solve everything for everybody. They got to save everybody. They get every line. They get every action moment. And it just seems out of character. It's just artificial. It's just like everybody's just flinging their bodies around, flying around like they're Marvel superheroes. They're indestructible. They can solve every single problem. Anyways, Star Trek Beyond. I mean, it's fun and it's summer filler. It's going to extend the lifespan of this Star Trek cinematic universe. And hopefully, if this extends long enough, we're going to get into some more interesting color. And hopefully, the Star Trek people are looking at what Star Wars is doing by hiring people like Rian Johnson and Gareth Edwards and stuff like that, taking some risks on some of the creative people behind the camera. I would like to see more of that happen. I would like to see a little bit more intelligence and heart and sophistication happen with Star Trek going forward. But hopefully what happens is they keep making more of these movies. They've already announced a 4th one, and as these actors continue to age, and they're all aging gracefully, and it's great to see them not be so fresh-faced. It's great to see the growth, and they obviously love that they get to play these characters. These characters are obviously loved by us, the audience. And I think that's really what it comes down to, is just that I, and I'm sure lots of other fans and people that want something fresh out of Star Trek wanted this to go on a different route. And hopefully that's what starts to happen, that these movies become a little bit more episodic in nature, and there are going to be some lame episodes, some sort of meh episodes, which I think this one is, and then it will get better. But for now, Star Trek Beyond gets a 6 out of 10 from me. Hey, thanks for checking out that video on our EPN channel. It's just one small part of the things that we make around here. So if you liked it, don't forget to check out some of our other vids and hit that subscribe button.